Again, we're talking about manipulative editing and only showing. We're only showing part of the. Pamela, there's a very simple.
We welcome any more evidence
if
that
I
you
could
can
say
release
one
to the
thing,
public.
She was driving by after dropping off her little 6-year-old boy
That's
at
just
school.
simply not true. I have the facts on the ground.
A woman being pulled out of her car as she was trying to simply go to the doctor. Is that what?
That is, she was not going to the doctor.
Is what you're.
Scores and scores of murders, child pedophiles. Why does the media not talk about that?
Tricia McLaughlin from the Trump administration recently went on CNN to discuss some recent ICE incidents there in Minneapolis. And not surprisingly, the anchors from CNN had a completely different view of what has been going down there in Minneapolis. If you guys enjoy the video, make sure to leave us a like, leave a comment, subscribe, check out some of our If you guys enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and check out some of our other videos. I'm Scott. Let's get into it.
Today that ICE may ask people to, quote, validate their identity when asked about Americans carrying proof of citizenship. Can you clarify what exactly that means? Do American citizens, as of now, need to carry their passports or other immigration documents to show that they're citizens?
I am so glad you asked this question because I think that there's a lot of confusion there about this. We have incredibly targeted immigration enforcement operations. So what's happening there is reasonable suspicion. If somebody is in the vicinity of this operation, of this target, then they could be asked for their identification. We've been vindicated by the Supreme Court, September of 2025. You all saw a case out of Los Angeles where they said we can use reasonable suspicion. I think I've seen a lot on this network and other places where they're talking about this is racially based. Absolutely not. Racial animus is no place in DHS and is of course not used. We're using what is protected under the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
All right, let's dive a little bit deeper into that.
Absolutely.
I want to play this video of a recent incident in Minnesota that has received attention.
Do you have an ID on you, ma'am?
I don't need an ID to walk around in my city. This is my city.
Okay, do you have some ID then, please?
I don't need it.
Yes,
not,
I do.
We're going to
Here.
put you in the vehicle. We're going to
Here's my ID, please.
I am U.S. citizen. I don't need to carry around an ID in my home.
Well,
this is my home.
Where were you born?
This is my home.
Where were you born?
Minneapolis is my home.
So that video was filmed by a woman who, as you heard, said she is a U.S. citizen. Why exactly was she stopped? Was there reasonable suspicion, which is a legal bar, as you noted, that a crime was committed in that situation? And why was he asking her, where are you born? Like, what was he basing that on?
Sure. So either this is, and I haven't seen this video before, so there could be two circumstances here. Either this is a targeted operation and she's around the vicinity of it, around the target.
Maybe based
There's
on her
reasonable
accent?
Suspicion because there might be a descriptor, or she could be 5'6" and they're looking for somebody who's 5'6". That could be part of it. They're looking for somebody. That could be part of it. The other piece of it is it could be, I don't know if she was obstructing law enforcement, if she was assaulting law enforcement prior to this, but they either had those Title VIII authorities under the U.S. Code 1357 or they had that reasonable suspicion.
But what do you say to those who watch that and other videos that they're seeing themselves? I mean, this is not just the mainstream media. This is, people are seeing these videos and they're concerned that a place like Minnesota is turning into a police state, and they're going up to U.S. citizens asking for ID and you know, using tactics.
I think that there's a lot of fear mongering going on. I think by the media.
Show them your ID.
Let me just correct you right there. Let me just. They're watching these videos and using their independence of mind. It's not the media.
No, actually, it is the media, and we're seeing it time and time again by saying things like the police state. What we're seeing is rampant violence against our law enforcement, highly coordinated. We have our legal authorities. When individuals see videos like that, you have to ask the question, was this individual obstructing law enforcement, which is a federal crime? Were they assaulting law enforcement, which is a felony? Were any of those instances occurring before this video was cut? Because you saw a very short cut, and that's what I'm talking about, the media.
Yeah, the media. She says the media is not doing anything to sow division, but she just called the activity there in Minnesota a police state. Very deceptive with the way they report things. And also, if you want her to comment on the video and you really want an honest reaction and get to the facts of the case, why not give her the video in advance of the interview? It's kind of like they just drop it right there during the interview. They don't even tell her the context or let her get some history on this case. They just show her the video and what's your reaction? Well, how's she supposed to give a reaction? She doesn't even really know what happened. So it makes you wonder, do you really want answers, or do you just want to put them in an awkward position where it's difficult for them to answer questions, so it looks like they're hiding something or they're not being honest? And also, why is Wolf Blitzer there? He looks like a potted plant.
But you have to look at the polling, right? This isn't the media. This is actual polling that says, hey, I like what ICE is doing in terms of its target. We want to get criminals off the street who don't belong in the country. But 51% say ICE makes cities less safe. Just 31% say it makes cities more safe. On the Renee Good case you brought up, 26% of Americans viewed the shooting as an appropriate use of force, while 56% called it an inappropriate use of force. So are you willing to consider in some cases ICE has gone too far and is losing American support?
Pamela, in the last 5 weeks, we have arrested 2,500 criminal illegal aliens off of the streets of Minneapolis. If I can make my point, I appreciate your having me, but I do want to be able to make my point.
Sure.
The point of the matter is, I have not seen CNN cover who some of those individuals are. An individual from Ecuador, he murdered his 3-month-old son. An individual who is perpetuating human slavery and human trafficking, scores and scores of murders, child pedophiles. Why does the media not talk about that? We continue to see that people love to demonize law enforcement, vilify them as they're facing a 1,000% increase in assaults against them. And yet we're not talking about the great work that they're doing on the ground, the fact that they are risking their lives day in and day out to get these criminals off the ground. Gang members, known as suspected terrorists, these are all the people that we've arrested in Minneapolis. And DHS and Secretary Noem, President Trump have done a phenomenal job of trying to give people transparency on who we are arresting, and yet we're standing here talking about relitigating cases over and over and over again.
Well, a U.S. citizen was killed by an ICE officer.
Yes,
that's fair. I talked about the polls. It's a fair question to say, are you losing American support? But Wolf, I want to let you.
Please.
No one supports attacking or killing a
exactly.
law enforcement
No one does.
officer. Nobody supports that.
But if I may say, you all have said, really laying the feet at that ICE enforcement officer. We said that this was domestic. We said that this was domestic terrorism for a reason. This individual used a deadly weapon against our ICE law enforcement officer. That is and will be charged. In any of the cases, we saw 15 of these cases over the past week alone in Minneapolis. Those will be charged as domestic terrorism.
The media cannot accept actions like this being labeled as domestic terrorism, but if it fits the description of domestic terrorism, and a lot of these incidents still have to be investigated, and there's going to be reports, and we're going to find out exactly what happened. And if it turns out that they are participating in domestic terrorism acts, then by definition they are domestic terrorists. So, we'll have to wait and see, but maybe they've seen enough that they're competent to call these people out as domestic terrorists. They have a lot more information than we have or the CNN has at this point.
When she called this 37-year-old mother of 3 who was driving that car a domestic
Why does it matter
terrorist,
if she's a mom?
that really was outrageous.
We said it was an act of domestic terrorism. In no way is that outrageous. What we saw on the ground there, she had been stalking and harassing law enforcement throughout the morning, and then she went on to use her car as a deadly weapon.
She was driving by after dropping off her little 6-year-old boy
That's
at
just
school.
simply not true. I have the facts on the ground. I mean, if you look at it, for the hours
more
before,
information you can release to give the public a better understanding.
if I can give you the facts of what happened that morning. At 9:30 a.m. Central Time, this is where that incident occurred in Minneapolis. This individual, for hours before, had been stalking and harassing law enforcement, impeding operations. At the time of that incident, our law enforcement approached this individual's vehicle as she was blocking in our law enforcement. That is a federal crime. They asked her to get out of the car, to stop obstructing law enforcement. You saw from the video that her partner had been walking around harassing the law enforcement officer. Our officer was in front of her. She gunned the vehicle, and that's when things turn dangerous and deadly. If you don't listen to lawful commands of federal law enforcement, if you use your vehicle as a weapon, that is absolutely an act of domestic terrorism.
Hold on really quick. I mean, you just mentioned he stepped in front of the vehicle, and there is no confirmation. I mean, there have been different analysis of this vehicle, and of course we would love more facts to fill in the picture.
They can't accept it.
But she's also turning the wheel, and he did step in front of the vehicle as part of this. Is that part of the training for ICE agents during an encounter with the vehicle?
When you're trying to be, when they're being blocked, when you're being impeded, when your
cars were going by.
Cars were being you're not seeing the full video. There are cars behind this individual that
struck
could
him
not get
with her
through.
vehicle.
So again, we're talking about
Period.
manipulative editing and only showing. We're only showing part of the. Pamela, there's a
We
very
welcome
simple.
any more evidence
If
that
I
you
could
can
say
release to
one
the
thing,
public.
there's a very simple solution here. Tim Walz and Mayor Fry should let us into their jails. Those 1,400 individuals, those criminal illegal aliens who have already had their due process, let us in those jails. Let us take those murderers, those rapists,
They want to give
those
them
child
voting
pedophiles
rights.
out. That would simply solve the solution. Work with state and local law enforcement. That is what we're asking. Down in Florida, there's been 40,000 arrests of criminal illegal aliens. We've seen peace. We've seen public safety. That's what we should be seeing across the nation.
Tricia, I want you to listen and watch what your boss, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Secretary
Secretary Noem.
Secretary Noem, said yesterday alongside another video of a recent encounter in Minnesota. Listen to this.
The officers that we have out there are very highly trained and skilled, specific for the operations that they're doing. They're utilizing the most gifted individuals on these operations to go out and to do enforcement, because many times if they're going after murderers.
So it's just like she said, selective editing. CNN will do anything to show the Trump administration and now ICE in as bad of light as possible, and they're just not being honest. Again, there's no background to what we're seeing here. They don't even probably know what they're looking at here, but they throw it out there for the public to see because they know it makes people mad. They really should be ashamed as so-called journalists to be doing these types of things, but they do it every day. Also, when they do give backstories, they always like to give inaccurate backstories.
And we also saw that video of a woman being pulled out of her car as she was trying to simply go to the doctor. Is that what?
That is, she was not going to the doctor.
Is what you're seeing
Just
there?
going to the doctor.
Are these the officers are trained to do? They cut off her seatbelt. They dragged her out of the car.
Yes, she's just
and took
on her way
out.
to the doctor.
This individual was actually arrested because she was time and time again impeding law enforcement officers. Again, a small snippet of this video. So she was an agitator, intentionally, again, trying to impede federal law enforcement officers, which is a federal crime.
People
and is a
buy
felony.
into these
How do you know for
stories.
certainty, though, that she wasn't just caught up in the protests and the traffic and the chaos and was trying to get to? How do you know
Because
that
she
for
was
certainty?
doing this time and time again, over and over and over again. We've talked to federal law enforcement on the ground. We talked to their supervisors. In this case, we knew exactly what happened here, and she'll be charged as such.
So that's the difference here. They believe law enforcement when they give them the account of what happened in this situation. CNN, on the other hand, they don't believe law enforcement, and they always portray ICE as the bad guys. So let me know what you guys think. How did Tricia McLaughlin handle herself against the two CNN anchors? They had to have two people there to put up against her, and I thought she did well. They tried to ambush her a little bit with some video and some questions. CNN, again, just seems to do everything they can to make the Trump administration look bad and to make ICE and law enforcement in general look bad. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.